Okay, I think things have pretty much settled down for a little bit. Um, yeah, there wasn't too much more to say about the Toy Story. The fact that, it was a groundbreaking film at the time when it came out. It was the first, full-length computer animated film. But now let's move on to this next one I've got here. It's Walt Disney's 1992-1993 The Three Musketeers. And unfortunately, I don't see a special edition of this coming out. I don't know. I don't know if it's really favored or not, or anything like that. It's definitely, when you wanna. It's always caught on syndication. Sometimes, but it's got Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, Chris O'Donnell, Oliver Platt, Tim Curry, and it all-star cast. And I remember seeing this when it first came out on home video. I remember renting it for the first time, and just like it says, it's just loads of fun for what it was at the time. Wasn't anything, looking back on it, it's kind of cheesy, and some of the, it was definitely, some of the stuff in this movie, it kind of surprised me, like looking back on it now that I'm older, what they were sneaking into it, being a Disney film, it was pretty dark. Some of the violence and stuff, it was pretty nasty. But I guess they fixed it to where, they can get by with it. And now we have Pirates of the Caribbean, which is now PG-13. And, when that first came out, it came with some controversy. The fact that it was a Disney film and was rated PG-13. This was not. This was only PG. And it could have easily been a PG-13 if they kept, if they'd let some things be shown. And it was pretty graphic for even in 1992, 1993, whenever this came out. But still enjoyable. This next one may be an embarrassment, but who cares? Yes, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live-action movie. There it is. I kind of wish there was a little bit more extra features on this DVD, but apparently New Line, it's not a favorite with New Line or something, I don't know. But basically, there it is. I remember when this first came out, what a big deal that was. Of course, I was into the Turtles like anybody else. I was more into the cartoon. And, because of the success of the cartoon, they had to make the movie. Of course, a live-action movie. Now, looking back on it, it's cheese. Matter of fact, some of the, back in 1990, those were believable. There was no such thing as CGI, surprisingly. Well, it was, but it wasn't real good. And if you wanted to pull off some ninja fighting turtles, you had to do it the old-fashioned way. You had to use some animatronics and, of course, stunt guys in suits. And along with some voice acting. I had no idea until a little bit later on. I think it was about when I was 10, I found out that Corey Feldman was the voice of Donatello. Which is strange. I just thought, he sounded more like Donatello in the cartoon. This next one has always been a favorite. Don't ask me why. But for some reason, I've always enjoyed the Ten Commandments. It's always been my favorite of the biblical epics of the 1950s and 60s. of course, this version with Charlton Heston, Cecil B. DeMille. And I know they've come up with a better version of this on DVD, but you know what? I'm not upgrading it because I'm watching it just for the movie and its subject matter. And if you're a firm believer in this stuff, you should be living it, what this movie is about. And I think the reason why it was made at the time, because this even has the introduction by Cecil B. DeMille himself that they don't play on television, where he basically says that the theme of the movie is that whether to be ruled by God's law or to be ruled as a dictator. Under a dictatorship, are men, he says this, are men property of the state, or are they free souls under God? And you have to remember back in 1956 what was going on. You still had the big thing with civil rights. And what he's saying is it doesn't matter what color skin that these people are, that they're still human beings. They're still God's creation. And I think that's why it was made back then. But you know what? This still holds true today. Next movie, I saw about first time. Sorry, my thing's running over my cable here. Still is on top of it, but I can't go too far. Next movie I saw when I was in second grade, actually, because we actually read the book, and it's Walt Disney's version of Swiss Family Robinson. There you go. Of course, it's fully restored in THX. I don't think this is on. No, this isn't on Blu-ray yet, but it probably will be. And of course, I got this in a bargain bin at Walmart. The movies like for $10 or something like that. They came in these slip covers with the new logo on them. And of course, there's a whole bunch of features on here about the making of the movie. A lot of stuff to go through. It's called, matter of fact, it's part of the Vault Disney collection. Clever use of Walt's name. It finally got off because my chair was sitting on my headphone cable, and I don't want it pinched. Next movie was kind of turned on by my father. He's a big John Wayne guy, and one of the favorites we used to watch together, The Sons of Katie Elder, with also with Dean Martin in here. And this is fun to watch. Another one he liked to watch is True Grit, and we've been debating whether to go see the new True Grit movie with Jeff Bridges, but it was kind of, I don't know whether to think it's blasphemy or what, because Jeff Bridges is not John Wayne. But the way I've seen the trailers is that he's not doing a John Wayne impersonation, which would have been blasphemy. He's doing his own thing. But yeah, Sons of Katie Elder, good story. Next one. This was, definitely a product of the 80s because a little movie called E.T. had come out and another movie called Star Wars had come out. And so you begin to have all these spin-offs. And some of them were successful, some of them were not. And here's one of the more successful ones. You have Short Circuit and Short Circuit 2. Character with Johnny Five. Or he was called Number 5 in this one, and it later changed to Johnny Five. I heard a rumor that they're remaking this, and I hope not. And if they do, it's probably going to be bad. It's going to be CGI'd, and it's just going to be terrible. You don't redo Johnny 5. Same thing what I felt when they did The Karate Kid. You don't redo those. They don't need to be remade. Stick with the originals. But yeah, the first one here, we'll talk about them both briefly. This is the first one, made in 1986, had Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg. And this is the first one that introduces the whole thing. The little bit of the story is, the first one is that there's this company, this war company, that builds these robots to replace soldiers on the battlefield, and they can take out entire armies with lasers. They're weapons of, essentially weapons of mass destruction without, dropping the nuclear bomb. And these guys pack a little punch, but then one of them accidentally gets struck by lightning, of course we see here, and something strange happens to him. He becomes alive, and he develops a personality, and he wants to make love, not war, basically, and he becomes this lovable character known as Number 5, where he's very comedic, and he's I don't want to say it. It's just one of those things you can't really describe him. He's like a kid in this. And, of course, as a kid, you couldn't help but watch this. It was so believable. Even that there was no CGI, they used animatronics, and there's something about that they. Of course, the first one is he discovers he's alive, and he meets up with Ali Sheedy. Ali Sheedy takes him in, and Steve Guttenberg is his designer. And eventually, at the end, they get married. Now, the second one I'll talk about is when the second one involves Steve Guttenberg's assistant that was in the first movie. I think was his name, Fisher Stevens, yes. And of course he goes to New York City, and he's now a toy maker because he lost his job at the war company. Of course, at the end of the movie, the first movie, that the war company went out of business because it went out of control with its military. And the second one is the Steve Guttenberg's assistant, Ben, moves to New York City, and he's a toy maker using the Number 5 design. And so he has no money, he has no assembly line, and he only has a few people to help build these toys. But then he calls for help, and Ali Sheedy's character supposedly sends them Number 5, but this time he has the name of Johnny 5. And he goes, and of course it's Johnny 5 in New York, and he runs into a little bit more problem because people look at him like he's crazy, and of course at the end he ends up beating up this guy and who tries to kill him, and of course at the end he becomes an American citizen. But I like the first one better. The second one's not too bad. There is some funny things in it. Of course, you got to watch it for Johnny 5. He's the heart of the movie. Take a pause here, and we'll go to the next clip.